Alright guys, hello. Let's continue with our lesson regarding HTML images and videos. So our learning competencies are still the same. We are going to insert socially and morally accepted images and videos in a web page, and we will show respect and care for school property and facilities, and we will apply fundamental understanding of the ethical and legal issues surrounding the access and use of media. So just a review, how will we be able to say that an image or a video is ethically and morally correct? So basically, as long as we are not stepping on any person, we are not degrading their human dignity, and yeah, just like that, we are not stepping on anybody, as long as we are truthful to the way of Christ, and that's okay. That will be good. How can we say that a source is credible? If we are going to cite sources that will come from, let's say, journals or articles or research papers or news outlets, as long as the news outlets are also very credible, very big, because those things or those entities I've said, they have fact checkers. So when they have fact checkers, we well, of course, the product that they will be giving are very, very credible. So now let's move on to inserting an image. Wait a minute. All right. So going back, inserting an image. So the syntax that we will use is the img tag, or the image tag, followed by an attribute src or source, and it will get a path for the resource. So you may use a relative or an absolute URL here. So as an example, let me show you this image. So inside the body, we have the image tag img, followed by the attribute src, and it gets the resource sample.jpg. So this is an example of a relative URL. Now, once we place that on our web document, we save and then we view it, definitely the image will pop on the web page. But look at this. Now, the web page, as you can see, there's no image for sample.jpg. The question now here is, why did it not appear? I want you to think about that question for a bit. We have the actual code. It's the correct code, but the image is not appearing. Now, if you are going to think about it, we have definitely the resource, sample.jpg. I mean, we have the code for the resource. But the next question you must be asking yourselves is this sample.jpg existing? Since we are using a relative URL, the browser will look at the folder where this code, this index, or even let's just say a normal web document, a normal HTML is located. So where is it located? In that location is sample.jpg existing. Let me show you an example. No. Mamaya na lang yung example. But what I'm trying to say here is, if you create a web page wherein there is a tag for an image, the image must also exist inside the same folder, so that when the web page loads, it will just follow the relative URL, get the image, and display it on the web page. Later on, I will show an actual example. But let's try doing an exercise first using this syntax. So we need to insert two images by writing the correct code inside the HTML file. So let's assume that the files are located in C user desktop TLE. So here are the images. We have flower.jpg and we have bees.jpg. Now this is our HTML file. Forgive me if the web structure is not complete, but anyway, it will work, although it's not the proper standard, but nonetheless, it will work. But of course, if we are going to create an actual web page, we must follow the proper standard. I only made a shortcut for the purpose of demonstration. So if we are going to insert flower.jpg and bees.jpg in our web page, what should we write here? As I've said, we have two types of URL, right? We have the relative and we have the absolute. So I'll be showing you two different ways of inserting an image using the two different URL types. So if we are going to use an absolute URL, it would look like this. Image source will get the full path. What's the full path? C user desktop TLE. So we use the full path C user desktop TLE slash flower.jpg, because that's the file, flower.jpg. The second one, using a relative URL, inside the project folder, let's say this document is our index.html. So index.html is located inside the folder TLE inside desktop. We will write the image tag like this. Image source gets bees.jpg only. If you cannot remember what a relative URL is, relative URL will use whatever the path of index is. What is the path of index? C user desktop TLE. So to the computer will use C user desktop slash TLE slash bees.jpg. Again, the relative URL, it's up to the computer to fill up the path to locate the resource of the file. Okay? So let's try to do this. Let me show you the actual writing of it. Inside the body, we will use the tag img and then src source, and then it will get the resource, and I have it in my desktop. Wait, it's not the actual file, but it's the same file name. So let me just get the path of my desktop. The path of my file, oh wait, this is bees. I need flower. Okay, so the path is C users slash my computer and then desktop. Let me just copy this. Slash flower.jpg. So this is the absolute URL. So there you go. That's flower.jpg. Now, again, the file is called flower.jpg. If I will change the name to flowers, the file is not existing on my desktop. So if I save this and if I reload, the file is not showing, primarily because it's not existing. So let's again correct that. Okay, so the other one is bees. I will use a relative URL since they are located both inside desktop. So I'll just write here bees.jpg. So I have the flower here. After the flower, you have bees. All right. So now what if we want to control the height and the width of an image? So again, going back, this is the actual markup tag for it. We will add attributes height and width for the image tag. So these two will be written inside the image tag. So let's take a look at the example. In this example, we added height. It gets 10 pixels and width 20 pixels. Let me write that down. So for the flower, we will add, you can place it here, height gets 10 pixels, or you can actually place it before the source. It doesn't really matter. But for the sake of organization, we write attributes to control the height and width after the path, because it's easier to read the path first. If we are browsing our codes, it will be easier for the path to be on the first line, or to be on the first attribute after the tag, rather than at the end. So after the height, we will, wait, bakit may ganyan? After height, we will write width 20 pixels. Now, a problem with this one, we set the height to 10 pixels and then the width to 20. Before I show the output, I want you to pause first and think, what will be the problem with regards to the output of the image if we set an actual width and actual height. What I try to say is, if we try to put an actual unit for the image, controlling the height and width. Now, if we place an actual unit for the height with an actual unit with a width, more or less, your image will become, oh wait, there we go. Your image will become distorted. Can you see? We set it to 10 pixels, it's very, very small. And we set the width to 20 pixels, again, very small. But the aspect ratio is somehow distorted, because writing the actual height and the actual width, we are trying to fit a ready-made image to 10 pixels by 20 pixels. But if we remove one, let's try removing one. Maybe it will show you a better understanding of the ratio of an image. And let's reload this. As you can see, although quite small, the 10 pixels is placed, but the width, it followed the 10 pixels for the width. So somehow, the aspect ratio is still proportional. One of the things that I normally do when we talk about the height and width of an image is I use percentages. For example, for these bees, I will control the height. I will set the height and use a percentage. You might ask, sir, how come the height here has quotation marks? Here it doesn't have. And I remember saying this before in class. When we use attributes, you can write quotation marks. You may not write quotation marks. It doesn't really matter. But for the sake of trying to be safe, we put quotation marks. Sometimes the browser does not really read well if the attributes are not in quotation mark. But anyway, going back, for the height, we will put units in percentage. So again, the image will be 100%. So if we are going to reduce it by half, we can place here 50%. So I'm now only controlling the height. So if the height is 50%, this will be reduced by half. So it will only be up to here. Height pala, height. So it will be only, yeah, right, up to here, but the width will follow. It will also use 50%. So something like that. If we add a width to keep the ratio, we will use 50%. But if we want to actually distort the image, you write a unit for it. So it's safer if we are going to resize, we just use one. Let me remove the height. You use either height or width. I'm trying to resize, but as you can see, only the flower changes size. Zooming in, zooming out, it doesn't really affect the bees because in our code, it is set to 10%. So the browser maintains that 10% of the image. Unlike the flower, the height is set as an actual unit in pixels. So when we zoom in, zoom out, it doesn't resize. Okay, so we are good with images. Let's go with videos. For videos, this is the syntax. We use the tag video, and then we can set the width and the height, or vice versa, height first before width. And then we write the attribute controls. Controls must always be present. Writing this attribute, it will give you the play button, pause button, even the timeline bar, and if I'm not mistaken, there are also settings. And then inside the video tag, inside this video tag, we will write a tag called source, and then an attribute SRC. Again, this SRC, this source, it's like href. You can use a relative or an absolute URL. And then we have an attribute here called type. There are specific values that we can place here. What type means is, what kind of video is it? Is it MP4? Is it, what do you call that? AVI or MOV? So later on, I will show you what different types of videos can be placed in a browser. And then we have here a text. You can place any text here, but what this does is, if the video will not be able to load on the browser, instead of the video displaying, the message will be shown. As an actual example, so I have here video, and then the width is set into 320 pixels. I did not use percentage, I used pixels. And then the height is also 240 pixels. And then we have controls, mandatory. And then for the source, I used a relative URL, sample.mp4. And then the type, video/mp4. So the video will be in mp4 format. And then this message will display if the video will not be shown. What are the different types of the type attribute? So we have MP4, we have WebM, we have OGG. I'm not very sure if there are other types or other formats of video that can be shown by HTML. Maybe you can research more on that. But let's try putting that as an example. Let me just copy the code and paste it so that it will be faster. So let's remove this and place the video tag. And let me just correct the indentation. I already have a video on my desktop called sample.mp4. So hopefully there will be no problems when we view the web page. So let's try it. Oh yeah, I already have that. I don't, oh no, it's not playing. Maybe it's of a different type. Let me just double check. I already have this. Ah, okay, okay. Incorrect file name. Okay, let's reload. There we go. Oh. So we already have the video without controls. The play button, the timeline, even the maximize will not be there, and the options will not be there. But basically, using that one, using the video tag, we will be able to insert videos. We will be able to also control the width and the height. Let's change this to percent. Let's try using 80% of the width. Let's remove the height. Let's save. So that is 80%. Let's try removing controls. Let's see what will happen. So no controls for the video. So if there are no controls, we won't be able to play it. So this must always be present. Now let's try changing the type. Let's try using WebM. Because what I'm trying to do here is I'm going to try to display this. Since the source is in MP4, but the type is different, maybe it will prompt it to display the message. Oh no, it still worked. Well, maybe there are um, invisible forces at work. So this message will only pop up in rare cases wherein the video file will not be able to load properly on the web page. But generally, this will be the code for our insertion of videos. Now, let's move on to your activity. What I want you to do now is I want you to insert images and the quadratic equation video that you did the last time, paste them inside your math tutorial website. So again, for your math tutorial website, no designs as of yet. So what I want you to do, aside from the text content, you put now images that you will be needing for the tutorial website and the quadratic equation video. If you have any questions, you may message me in Schoology. Thank you.